Hey guitar champion, what's going on? I'm Justin Hombach back from my practice dojo. Welcome to today's video. Today we have Nili Brosh here on this YouTube channel talking about her fourth record, Eventide, being more confident on stage and touring with instrumental rock guitar music. I wish you a lot of fun with today's interview, and please check out Nili Brosh's new record, new album, Eventide, and one of her shows here in Germany. I think I will be going to one or two. Let's see, so if you see me there, let's have a beer together and let's enjoy this really cool music of hers. And now let's get into today's interview. Here we go. All right, hello Nili, welcome to my YouTube channel. Glad to have you here. How are you doing?
I'm great, Justin. Thanks for having me. This is such a nice little fun thing to do right before I leave. Perfect timing.
Before we start, one thing that I always ask the people that I have here on my interviews is, have you practiced today? And what are you currently practicing if you have practiced today?
I have. I already started. It's a little bit earlier in the day for me than it is for you, but since I'm leaving this week, I have to consolidate. So mostly I've been, rehearsing the set for the shows coming up in Germany, some stuff for the Vienna camp, and then right after I get back I have 9 days at home, and then I have a Death Clock tour, so I've been working on that set as well because we have some new songs in the new old songs that I haven't played with the band. So
nice.
Yeah, so lots of playing.
So you already foreshadowed it, but you are going on tour here in Europe, mostly in Germany from what I've seen. Let us talk about that real quickly, because I think that's always kind of interesting as an instrumental solo guitar artist being on tour and playing on tour. So the first question that I've already asked you before we started the interview, but I will ask you to that again here, is, are you playing with your own band? Are you bringing your own guys from the States over, or are you approaching some people here in Europe to play with you together?
So I have a wonderful European rhythm section. This is going to be our first time playing together. It's Werner Erkelens on bass from Monuments, and Andrew Scott on drums from King and played with Paul Gilbert. And we get 1 day of rehearsal in Düsseldorf before the first show starts. And I trust them completely. Like, they've been sending me stuff. I know they've been doing their homework, and I can't wait to play this stuff together. I think it's going to gel really well, and I think that's going to be like, the most fun part of the whole thing. So
yeah, and it's business-wise the usual, having just 1 day for rehearsal, but mostly the people are so professional. Yeah, it's mostly enough. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I'm not worried at all. Like, as long as everybody shows up prepared, it's like a luxury to get to run through the set a couple times, actually, if anything.
Yeah. So what would you say are the biggest challenges for you touring outside of the States with your own music? Do you have to organize and to manage everything, or what would you say is like more the difficult kind of side of touring with that compared to with your Death Clock and all the other shows that you're doing?
Yeah, I mean, you pretty much said it, like the responsibility on me. I pretty much doing everything myself, so it becomes more of a budgeting my time project to juggling all these different things, whether it's on the organizational side or the actual getting ready for tour side. And then I have my own travel anxieties and things like that I have to manage. But when it's your own stuff, you always, even if you're not doing everything yourself, you definitely I feel a more sense of responsibility, because it's my name, rather than, when you're in somebody else's band, you just have to worry about the music and the rest is somebody else's problem. So, you know what I mean? Like, but that's how it evens out, right? There are times where it's my problem. There's times where it's not my problem. So you put the hat on that you have to put on that day and show up and do your best. What else can you do, right?
Is it your first time with your own music in Europe, or have you already toured in the past?
It's actually second time. First time was 2 years ago. So Rüsselsheim, we're actually coming back to a lot of places. And this tour ended up being a little bit shorter because of my obligations in the states that are coming up right after. I would have liked it to be longer, and we kind of just had to cut it off where it got to. So But we're ending up doing a lot of repeat stuff in Germany, which I'm really excited about because it was really fun the last time. Everyone was super nice and gracious, and we had a great time. And now that I know a lot of these places, you know, I know that I can get excited because I know I had a good time in the past, and now it's just like less unfamiliar and more just like, oh, I can't wait to see these people again.
Yeah. And more I believe that the people, you know, appreciate this kind of instrumental music more than maybe in the past, and they're willing to see it live. And it's also a cool experience to see that live, especially in the places where you are going to head to, because, you know, Rüsselsheim is famous for having, you know, I saw Kiko there a couple of months ago. Then Waldbronn's Stage 1 or Studio 1 is, I believe, the name. I played there as well in the past. I will see Vinnie Moore there soon. So more and more from those 80s shred and like instrumental guitar heroes, or like instrumental guitar music in general, are a little bit more represented in the live scene, which is super awesome nowadays.
It's great. It's so important. I mean, you know, like we're trying very hard to make it not a dying art form, because there is an audience for it, and there are people who do, like you said, want to come and see it really happen. And that's the reason we can still do it. So of course I want to go to where they want to have it, you know. It only makes sense, right?
So you are going on tour to promote your new record, Eventide. Let's talk about that really quickly. And it's your 4th record, when I remember correctly. And what would you say are the biggest differences from that record compared to your previous 3 records?
Well, it seems that, you know, I wasn't really trying to do this, but as a result, I've always ended up with a multitude of genres on one record. And yet from one record to the next, whatever those genres may be have also changed. And so this is kind of no different in that sense, where it's still very diverse genre-wise, but the stuff that's on it is still different than what was on the last one, what was on the one before that. So it's still new, but somehow the diversity still ended up being there. So we got a lot of, you know, I've been exploring like different things, like a lot of synthwave kind of stuff, a little bit more of a ethnic stuff, you know, more like, I don't know if flamenco is the right word, but, you know, more like, you know, there's a nylon string guitar track and with accordion on it as well. And there's more like Middle Eastern heavy music influenced, and there, you know, just little things here and there, not super going down each rabbit hole, but you know, it ended up being new realms that haven't really been quite explored in my previous records, even though the progression does kind of make sense, you know what I mean? It's not such a departure that you can kind of see, like, I see how you would get from this one to here. So continuing the journey, as it were.
Yeah, with your trademark sound, your trademark kind of influences and style, but more and more influences are probably adding to it and then creating this kind of melting pot of creative ideas. What are there any songs or sections or like parts where you think, like, oh, this can be challenging in the, you know, either musical or kind of technical kind of way that you try to accomplish in a live scenario? Is there anything where you are excited, like, oh, I can wait to play that song live, or this is going to be fun?
Some of them, I have to say, you know, some of the more technically challenging ones, I felt like I didn't have enough time to prepare for this particular tour. So there are ones that I would love to tackle in the future, like Losing Grip, for example. Like I have, in my West Coast band in the States, I have another guitar player. And so it would be great to have us do a dual guitar player thing, because it's very, you know, both parts type of thing. And I really didn't want to do that with backing tracks, you know? So I was like, maybe we'll leave that later for when I have time to really polish it. Or Every Player Wins, for example, you know, there's nuances where I'm like, I just feel like I'm not quite ready. But at the same time, and honestly, it's only because of my own perfectionism of like, it would have been fine, but I would have like been disappointed by some out-of-tune bend or something and picked myself apart for it for the next week, and then been like, why did I choose to play this tune? You know. But that being said, you know, there's a lot of stuff on it that I am really excited to play, like Pastel Dreams and Eventide, the title track, Roulette. You know, there's a lot of fun, really musical things that I can't wait to see how it's going to translate to this band in particular, and you know, just the live settings. I feel much more okay putting synths on backing tracks than I do other guitars.
I mean, it's been a while since you've released your previous record before that. I believe it
Yeah.
was coming out in 2019, when I remember
last
correctly.
week of it. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
And yeah, so shortly before this thing called COVID happened,
Yeah.
probably.
I just squeaked it right on by before it became a 2020 album.
Were there any kind of things where I would say, okay, in the last 5 years, certain new musical contexts, new musical kind of inspiration happened and had some sort of inspiration for that record for you, some new kind of musical adventures there, what you can see resemble in that new music of yours, in that new record?
Yeah, I believe so, but I can't necessarily trace them to exactly where they came from. You know, like it's obvious to me that they came out of that time frame when I had time to just play music for myself and explore again, you know, and somehow we ended up here. But I can't necessarily put my finger on, like, you know, this came out of that, you know, or whatever. It's like you said, it's always a big melting pot of, like, you kind of are a product of everything that you're taking in and listening to. And for me, a lot of times that goes in one ear and out the other. And I don't always remember, oh, that's right, I was like really into that at that point. It's just as a result, right? I'm like, oh, yeah, you know, and I try not to dig into it too deeply anyway, because I have plenty of rabbit holes that I go down. So if I can leave something a little bit alone, I'd rather do that when I can, you know.
But one thing that we can trace down a little bit is your new signature guitar from Ibanez, which is absolutely stunning. When I saw the first pictures from my good buddy Dan, I was like, wow, that's a really gorgeous, good-looking guitar. I absolutely love that. And I always, when I talk with people who have, you know, their own signature guitars, I know quite a lot of them. And I think it's always interesting to hear the story behind that signature guitar. You know, that not only the feeling, how it was to, you know, get announced that you're getting a signature guitar, but also how the whole kind of design thing happened, the production thing happened. How many years was it in production? Because I heard from, you know, from Martin Miller and Manuel Garde Fernandez and Stefan Forte that it can take some time to get this thing finally done.
Like you said, it takes a long time. And part of the reason that it did for me is because, again, COVID, you know, we started the conversations during that time. And it was very early on, just basically explained to me that, look, the production chains are really backed up. It's probably not going to be until at least 2024 anyway. And I knew that going in, and I was totally okay with it because I wanted it to be right. You know, I wanted it to be at the right time. I wanted it to have a buildup. And I wanted to make sure that I have the time to be really confident in what I'm putting out. So my whole idea was, you know, we don't see too many signature models that are RGs, especially not for my generation. And we all know that that's something that's very synonymous with Ibanez to people. You know, I think it's a very beloved line of guitars. It's what people often think about when they think of Ibanez. So to me, it's like, it's not like they're laying that by the wayside. That's not going to go away. It needs some love, if anything, you know. So I really wanted to be someone from my generation to further push the tradition of the RG, the classic Ibanez, you know. And so I wanted it to be my idea of, what would I do with that? You know, how would I personalize that to feel like myself when an RG already does feel quite like me, you know, like that's what I've been playing for a long time. So I think that helped a lot. But another thing that we don't often see is a humbucker single RG.
Yes.
You know, I really wanted it to be like the Fat Strat RG situation. And that's why those, even though they're EMG pickups, they are passives. And that's something that not a lot of people know that EMG even does, but they do a really great job with it. And I've been playing EMG passives for years, so I also had experience with knowing how that sounds in that particular situation. So that was my biggest thing, is make it a Fat Strat RG and then kind of put in all my favorite variables while keeping it an affordable guitar, you know. So it was important to me to have an edge bridge, you know, the exact color scheme and everything. Like, that's something that took a while because, you know, we started with an idea, and because I wanted it to be an affordable guitar and it being a premium, I kind of started understanding like what things you run into when you're choosing specific colors, or, you know, it's a 3-tone burst. So it was really interesting to see how, like, because they're hand painted, there's a, you know, margin of error to each end of exactly what the color is going to be and what do we need to do to make sure that it's a little bit more accurate every time, or consistent, I should say. So those are all the things that kind of took a little bit longer. But again, I wanted it to be just right to the extent that we could do that while keeping that guitar in a nice price range. I've never been known for playing really super expensive guitars, so I wouldn't feel comfortable selling anybody a super expensive guitar. The whole point is that it can be a solid instrument that's really versatile. I've kind of, found out how versatile it is with having played it on so many different types of gigs and different types of music over the last years. So that's how we ended up here, and I'm really confident in this product just kind of being the happy medium of everything,
Yeah, nice. What kind of price range are we with this guitar? Is it already published?
I'm not exactly sure. It hasn't been published yet, but I'm told it's going to be in dollars. It would be probably in the 1,600 range.
Oh wow, nice.
1,700.
Yeah. Wow. That's pretty good. That's pretty affordable. Yeah.
Yeah, that is really something that was important to me. I really, personally, just on a personal level, I would not feel comfortable selling a $4,000 guitar because I don't play a $4,000 guitar.
And was the main communication, because I heard this with some American artists, through Ibanez LA, through the LA custom shop, through Mike and Tyler, or was it straight with Japan? Okay.
Yeah.
So
they're my home base. I've been working with them since the beginning.
They're awesome.
Of my journey. Yeah, they're the best. Yeah. Mike and I actually went to Berkeley together as well.
So, oh really?
Yeah, we've known each other forever. Yeah.
Oh wow, great! Didn't knew that.
So,
I had the tour of the LA Custom when I went to NAMM 2024, and that was a really incredible experience. And then seeing the Hydra from Steve Vai and all these kind of really historical kind of guitars, and Mike and Tyler, they were so nice and so cool people. That's really awesome to work with them. Yeah.
And awesome. They have so many like fun random guitars just laying around in the shop, like that's the best part about it. It's like just another Tuesday for them, It's just like, oh yeah, this guitar's just been sitting here. You want to take it out as a loaner? Because I always need something, And I'm like, yeah, why not? It's one of one, but sure, why not?
Remember when I was there, it was like, okay, hey, this was to be planned to be a signature guitar of that and that artist, but it didn't happen, and all these kind of things. Like, okay,
wow. There's so much history in that building without even trying. It's just day to day to them.
Yeah, it's awesome. Yeah. So any more specs that you can share of your guitar, like what kind of neck and wood and all these kind of things the guitar nerds love to hear?
Sure. Yeah. So again, I really tried to stay home with the RG stuff. So it's a basswood body. It's a maple super wizard neck, just classic RG stuff. The inlays are one thing that, one hopes to think about something that has not been done yet, so my exclamation point inlays, and that's actually also the reason that we didn't keep those yellow, because I wanted to make sure that it was visible. Obviously yellow on maple really only registers under stage lights when it glows and everything. So I wanted to make that pop a little bit more. What other specs have we not touched? I think
that's pretty much it. Yeah, pickups. We had the wood. We had the neck. That's all we have to know. The price range. Great. I can't wait to test it out, because it looks stunning, and I think the humbucker single coil kind of combination, you don't see that really often with RGs.
You really don't. And I found that over the years, that's kind of something that I needed a little bit more every time. There were some sounds like with certain gigs that I do, and with my music, with like some clean tones, where I need two single coils to get like a certain thing, and that's not a crazy change to make. So I was like, why not?
But I heard that this is the most kind of obstacle kind of thing when it comes to designing your own signature guitars, that when you have some specific changes, that it's sometimes hard to accomplish. I heard that from Stefan with his 27 fret signature guitar and all these kind of things. That it's not so easy to make and to produce.
Not always.
Not always.
But it depends on what it is.
Yeah.
That's why you end up learning so much from that process, because it could be something that you think would be the easiest change to make, and then they explain to you why just in that factory it's not, and you're like, oh, I never would have thought of that, or the other way around, you think it's like a big deal, and they're like, no, we can do that. So it's just it's a really cool learning process that I wouldn't have thought of. Like, you know, I know all this information now that that like I would have never even thought about.
Yeah,
Like, how many
absolutely.
pieces do you have to get to have this yellow knobs, you know, or not that yellow knobs?
Yeah,
And
yeah,
it's
yeah.
just like, it's just what? Like, you don't think that that would be the thing. So
And the yellow pickups there they look really, really great. Yeah, the
thank you.
combination of the purple
Well,
and the
that's all
yellow.
EMG, you know, and that's kind of part of the
Ah,
thing is that like each company kind of has their own colors. So it was like matching the EMG's yellow to Ibanez's yellow was like one of the things that was the challenge, you know, because that you have no control over. So what do you
yeah.
do to make a compromise out of that where it doesn't look weird? And it was little falling into little things like that.
So one chance to see your signature guitar and you not only on tour is also in Vienna, at the Rock Me Guitar Camp in Vienna, where we both are as teachers, together with, you know, Andy Timmons, Frank Gambale,
Yeah,
Herman Lee.
yeah,
And I'm
yeah.
constantly asking myself, what the fuck am I doing there? It's like,
I feel the same way. Absolutely.
it's like, holy shit, Frank Gambale. Oh, fuck.
I know, I know, I know. Believe me.
What are people to expect from you from this kind of guitar camp? What kind of things have you prepared for the workshops, or what kind of topics would it be around?
I'm still throwing around a few ideas, you know, but I think it's going to be a lot about like melodic playing, melodic soloing, you know, finding your voice and your pace on stuff, how to polish your feel, your technique, but kind of in a structured way. Some ear training for guitar players, maybe some stuff about the mental game of performing, which is ever so tricky for everybody.
Nice. That's kind of an interesting thing. Would you get us a little bit more deeper into the kind of mental thing? Is there anything that you can share on the spot? Like,
Sure.
are there like any one trick where you say, okay, this is always helpful when it comes to the mental side of playing? Because that's currently for me a really interesting topic, and I'm really researching a lot about this. You know,
Yes.
stage fright, and all these kind of things.
Yeah. No, I agree. I mean, honestly, it and believe me, I'm no expert, right? I deal with this every day, just like everybody else. But it really comes down to, you know, the nuts and bolts of it end up being just the same concepts of being present in the moment and meditation and focus. I've read a lot about it as well. I don't know if you've heard, there's a classic book called The Inner Game of Tennis, which is about tennis, but can be applied to everything. And they break down Timothy Galway, who's wrote the book in the 70s, you know, breaks down these concepts really nicely. And he breaks it down to like two sides of you, and he calls it self one and self two. So self one is like the mental chatter in your head that's either being hard on you or cheering for you or is like trying to instruct you on how to do things. And then self two is your body that just does the thing uninterrupted. And it's all about the relationship of self one and self two, and how we believe that self one is trying to help you when it's really working against you. So it's more about how to trust self two that can carry out the thing without getting in its way and without getting in your own way, and you know, accepting that you'll never silence that completely, and you just need to like let it be there and focus somewhere else. And how do you focus somewhere else? And you know, it just talks a lot about all those things. And again, at the end of the day, it all ends up being kind of meditative and focus concepts. But the trust is the hardest part, I think, you know. So it's a simple concept that's just not very easy. And I wish there was a trick to it, because, you know, you have some great days and then you have some days where you can't get out of your head and you fall into the rabbit holes, and you know,
absolutely. Yeah.
It doesn't help if you're a perfectionist like me, you know, like it becomes harder to let things go. And that's exactly what you need to do in order to not continue to mess it up. You know, it's so those books have actually helped me. There's one about music specifically, The Inner Game of Music, that was written with him, but by Barry Green, who's it's mostly classical music, like he's a double bassist. But that one is a lot more practical in the sense that there's a lot of exercises and a lot of like musical things, but the concepts are really the same. And I was always happy that I read the tennis one first, because even though I don't know anything about tennis, it explains the concepts themselves very, very, very well. And then I was really curious as to how the next book actually applied it to musicians, and whether I had similar applications of the thing and stuff. So I still reread it and re-listen to it on audiobook all the time, and it's just kind of good concepts to just, you know, rewiring your brain is so hard, but the more that you can just sell yourself on that idea, even if you don't totally believe it, it still kind of gets in there, I think, a little bit.
Yeah. And if somebody wants to experience Nili out there live on stage, then check out the dates here in Germany. I can highly recommend to do it. So,
thank you.
And of course, to get your tickets for the Vienna Rock Me Guitar Camp.
Absolutely.
Rock Me Vienna Guitar Camp. That's way around. There's still tickets out there, but not many left. So yeah, thank you, Nili, for giving us a little insight in your new record, your new guitar, and the upcoming shows. I wish you a lot of fun with them, and I'm going to see you in a couple of days. In the next
can't wait to meet you. So, can't wait to meet you. We're gonna have a great time. It's gonna be awesome.
All right, thanks for being on the show. See you soon.
Thank you.